Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Small Success Podcast. We are so excited today. We have a guest in the studio and we are really kicking off a series of interviewing small business owners. So the goal of the Small Success Podcast is to share stories and insights into America's small business community. Today, we are doing just that. I'm Pam Downing. I'm the operations and marketing strategist here at Larison Media, and I am not alone. I am here with two guests in the studio, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hey everybody, Drew Larison back at it again, founder and creative director of Larison Media.
And I am Jaime VerLee, owner of Radiance.
Okay, Jaime, thank you for being here.
Hey,
we are so excited to have you. So to start out, tell us a little bit about you and tell us about your small business, Radiance. What is that?
Okay, so about me. First of all, I'm a Kokomo girl born and raised. And Radiance came out of, she was birthed out of my own story. I've been a nurse for 20 years now. But basically what I found is that I did a lot of critical care. I did a lot of stressful work. I was trying to work midnights and try and make everything work. And in the process of trying to do all the things, my health completely fell apart. And so one of the things that I'm doing is just kind of trying to get my life back. And in essence, I figured out that, hey, I have the ability to teach other people how to do the same thing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So walk us through a little bit what Radiance does. I know it's helping people get their life back, but that means a lot of things.
Yeah.
So give us some examples. Obviously, you don't need to share all the intimate details, but give us some examples of what that means for someone who may come to you and say, hey, I'm not a nurse, but maybe I'm a small business owner and I'm stressed to the max and I don't know what to do. How can Radiance help someone like that?
Okay. Well, what I figured out is kind of really whittling down, because you're right, you can't help all the people, but the people that I find I most connect with are moms. Like I said, at the point that Radiance was birthed, it came from a place of I was in a really bad space, mentally, physically. And so what I find is that I teach those moms how to learn to take care of themselves, how to make themselves a priority, how to learn how to love themselves. I mean, it's amazing how many women I can look dead in the eye and say, can you honestly say that you love yourself? And they're like,
Wow.
But you ask them if they love their kids, if they love their husband, if they love their family. Oh my gosh, they'll just pour it all out. But to ask them to love themselves is like, what have you done?
Yeah.
You know? So I think that's ground zero for me. And what that looks like is different for everybody. For some people, it's sitting down and really whittling out a plan. You know, maybe they're struggling with trying to eat healthy, or maybe they're struggling with trying to get movement in, or their stress level is through the roof. And maybe we need to sit down and figure out, okay, are you sleeping enough? Are you drinking enough water? Are you making time for quiet for yourself? And a lot of times the answer to that is no. And a lot of times I end up chasing, this spiral, and what it comes down to is I need to deal with the roots of what's really causing pain in my life. And my experience, and again, everybody has their own view, but like my experience is when you start seeing a lot of physical issues show up, often it's linked to an emotional need that has not been met. So that's what I do, is I dig to the root and deal with stuff and come up with a plan.
Interesting. And can you give us some examples of what those plans may look like? And I know from what I'm hearing you saying, that's custom and it's different for everyone, but what are some of the action steps that you help coach people through?
So one of the things I really love to work with is, like I said, moms with kids. I get a lot of people that will tell me, oh, my kid's ADHD, or they're really high anxiety, or, you know, I don't know how to deal with this. A lot of times what I'll do is just strip it down, and it's basic. You know, what kind of foods are you putting in your kid's body? It's amazing how many kids eat I mean, I'm not super dogmatic, so let's not act like, you know, I've got it all. I don't have it all together. However, it's amazing the amount of kids that I encounter that the majority of the food they put in their body a day is junk food. So if you're putting junk in, you get junk out.
Sure.
And so
especially in America.
Yeah.
The other day I saw, like, there was this graphic series and it was kids laying on a floor and around them was like what they normally would eat like in a day. And like they had a kid from America, they had a kid from like Somalia, they had a kid from Japan. And it was shocking.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like what? Yeah, it was.
I'm interested to see that.
I'll try to find that.
We'll try to find that and put that in the show notes. That would be interesting.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah. And I think that's it. I think, we've gotten in such a busy culture that, it's anything to get by. I mean, I know that there has been plenty of seasons in my life where I have lived at the ballpark and had more than my share of, hot dogs every night. And that was not my idea of a great, day,
Sure.
but it's life. And
Right.
so, giving people tangible ways that they can start making little healthy nuggets in their life, whether it's, okay, this week I packed my lunch every day for lunch. Or, like I said, it looks different for everybody. But sometimes it's just little tangible acts. Today I drank my water, seems super basic to some people. And to some people, it's like, I can't drink water if I save my soul. It's a whole thing. So, I think I start with that. There's some people that I just encourage to get up and move. There's so many people that just are stuck, whether it's chronic pain. I teach yoga. And mine is not a traditional vinyasa yoga. I do much more of a stretch class, which is great for, people who either work out a lot or aren't, super active. It's a nice, healthy in between. Stretching is great for everything. And it's amazing how much you can actually decrease your stress level just stretching.
Already you've talked, and I'm like, I have my water thing in here. And every time she's, did you drink your water? I'm like, yep.
Yes,
And I
I'm
take a
drinking
sip.
my water.
And you're saying stretching, and I sit up in my chair. Yep, I'm okay. We're good. I'm doing the things. I'm doing it okay.
You are doing fabulous.
Yes. You're very, it's so true as like the small business owner, like in the room. It's shocking to me. I had a run about probably like 4 or 5 months ago where I was very intentional about like what I was putting in my body, drinking water, being more active. And it's kind of crazy because you fall off of it because there's patterns, there's stretches, right? And it was nuts. A month off, everything in my life I noticed was getting worse.
Yeah.
And like, it was just, and I've learned that about myself, and probably you'll like echo it. If I'm sleeping well, if I'm being conscious of what I'm eating, and I have an intentional attitude of movement, everything in my life improves.
Yeah.
My attitude, my patience with my kids, my my mind at work is a lot more clear. It's shocking to me.
Yeah.
And then like you get off of a month and like you're seeing yourself being agitated. You see yourself being less patient. Yeah. You're like tired at 1 p.m. at work. It was crazy to me. And so much around like what I changed was what I was eating, and it changed everything. Yeah. It was crazy to me.
We have an upcoming podcast about self-care and the small business owner. So keep all of those thoughts on the tip of your tongue. You may get some tips from Jaime.
But here's my question, because we're talking about what you do for people, maybe like a specific plan you have for people. Mm-hmm. So much of a conversation that has to happen before any of that is around the idea of like self-awareness. Yeah. How do people get there? How do you help people get there? Because in my head, people are coming to you and like kind of using you and giving you money as like a consulting type of thing, right? How do they get there? Where they know, where they know they need a consultant? Like, what type of self-awareness are you helping them become aware of this? Or are they getting there on their own? How does that process work? Because self-awareness is everything to me. Knowing who you are, knowing where you're at, with combined of who you are and who you want to be, nothing can happen until then. Nothing good or healthy can happen until you're aware of that. How do people get aware? Or is that something you help out with them as well? Do they think they're aware, and then you meet with them, you're like, oh, you have no idea. You're actually not aware. Like, what's that look like?
Yeah. That's really interesting that you say that. So, when I take on new clients, I have a whole form that I have you fill out. And honestly, it's a bit of a test. If you take the time to fill that out and give me the information that I need, I find out a couple of things. Number one, are you dedicated to this, or are you just trying to like have me be like, wham, bam, there you are, you're all better. Yeah. I'm picky. Like, I have turned people away because they are not willing to show up and do the work.
They're not ready.
And it's not from a place of being snotty. It's, hey, like, come to me when you're really serious about it, but I'm not going to sit here and listen to you when you're not, you want me to fix it for you. The story is I am not a counselor. I am your coach. And the whole difference is I'm listening to you and what's going on. And oftentimes I just sit and let you talk. And that might echo counseling, but what's actually happening is you're kind of digging it up yourself. And I may prod and nudge, but like most of what happens, you know, is just people having self-realizations. If you're not in a space where you're ready to go there, it's not time. And that's not to say I've had plenty of people that, you know, I post on social media and they'll just be crickets for the longest time. And you'll think, oh my gosh, nobody's getting this. And then all of a sudden, like you'll run out into somebody in public and they're like, oh my gosh, your post just totally hit me in all the right spaces and I had all the feels. They're just not ready.
I get that on much lighter issues.
Yeah.
But like some encouragement for you. It's a good reminder every now and then. I'll post something. Maybe it's about Larissa Media, a cool thing that happened here. Or maybe it's a little about, like, I don't know, my family or something like that. Yeah. And you might not see that engagement online. So you doubt yourself, right? You're like, is Larissa Media actually, do people respect what we're doing?
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
all that type of thing. And then people come up to you and like unload like their appreciation or something. And it's always a great reminder, no matter what you're seeing, you have no idea of what the influence you have and can have on people in such a huge way that you just don't even realize, especially in the world we're in with social media. Like one post that gets 2 likes could have affected 100 people and you're just not seeing it. It's really interesting.
Yeah. It's amazing how many people just secretly watch and don't ever comment,
Well, because
like,
there's
share.
vulnerability.
Yes.
You know, and like finally maybe they say something to you in public, like that's a huge thing for them to come up and actually verbally talk to you about something. So you have them take a test. We're really big on like the Enneagram here.
Oh,
like
yeah.
We're very big Enneagram nerds. But like something I've learned with the Enneagram or Myers-Briggs, all these different types of tests, there's variables in place with those type of tests where, like my wife, she always says, I am one Enneagram at work and I am a different Enneagram at home. And like, it's actually true.
Totally.
It's really interesting. But like, there's so many variables when people maybe it's what age they're at when they take that test or what they're going through in their life at the time they take that test. So tell us about that test that you have them take. And are there ways of minimizing those variables where you get like the truest answer possible for that person when they start with you?
You know, I think it's more of a serve. It's not so much like you are a whatever number you are, like you would be in an Enneagram. First of all, I also love Enneagram, but I actually have used that in my coaching sessions to really kind of help people get a deeper understanding of who they are. Yeah. I mean, once you have that kind of background knowledge, you can take that and just sort of run with it.
It's creepy.
Yeah.
How accurate the Enneagram is.
It's disturbing.
I love I love watching people, you know, like people I'm very close with, like, hey, have you ever heard of this? No. I'm like, okay, cool, take it now. And
We're
then you
gonna
watch
mess
them
you up.
take it and you watch them read through the results at the end and like there's this like they feel seen, you know, and it's like it's talking about like self-awareness, like I wasn't even aware of what but they say it and it makes so much sense. It's this creepy thing. I actually get frustrated how accurate it is sometimes. Yeah.
I'm one of these weirdos though that fit into like 2 different, like I don't know what to call it.
What are you?
So if you take my test, I'm a 9 or I'm a 2.
Okay.
But like I have so many 9 qualities, it's kind of disturbing.
Well, and you know, I listened to another podcast recently with Ian Morgan Cron, who's like one of the Ennea experts, and everyone will for listeners who may not be aware of the Enneagram, we'll put a link in the show notes just so you can get a Cliff Notes understanding.
Get ready to be rocked.
Get ready to have your world rocked.
Yeah.
But the truth is, we all have all types within us.
Yeah.
But we have one dominant type. But it is interesting you bring that up. Like you have a lot of traits of another number.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can read through. You're right. The thing at the end where it tells you all about you. Like a lot of the 2s I read through and I'm like, yeah. And every time I test it, it's always a 2. And every time I go back and like read through the stuff, the 9 messes me up. So I don't know what I'm like a mix, whatever. You're right. Maybe I do have a little bit of all the things.
Well, but that's what I was saying too, with like any type of test like this, Myers-Briggs, it matters what mood you're in that day. It matters
Right.
like how your morning was
Yep.
or how you're feeling about your job as a parent or your job as whatever your job is. There's so many variables that take place. It's interesting to me. Yeah.
So, a couple things that I want to cover. One, we unintentionally touched on, which is the role of social media in your business.
Yes.
So, thinking through the lens of helping other small business owners, how have you used social media as a tool in your business? And I am not just fishing for a marketing answer because the world we're living in, social media is such a normal part of life that the examples you guys were giving about posting something about your businesses and people coming up and saying something to you in person, I have noticed in the last handful of years that is such a normal thing. That's a natural flow of conversation where I feel like even 5 to 7 years ago, it was like you had your online persona and that was your almost like a pseudonym. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but like you had your online person.
That's Twitter me. Facebook me is a different thing. And then real life me, goodness gracious.
Oh my.
But now like I feel like as friends or as businesses I follow, there's much more of a holistic approach where like anything that I post on Facebook is fair game to continue that conversation in person. So I'd love to chat about that in terms of your business. Things that you post on social media. Give us maybe some examples. What are those things? And then maybe an example of how have you seen Inner Radiance's social media play into the actual business of what Inner Radiance does, what you do.
You know, like I said, I like to try and do somewhat uplifting things on a regular basis. There's so much crud on social media. Like I want to be the little light on social media that people are like, oh, it's not so bad because, you know, I want to be that girl.
Yeah.
So, however, I also really want to put truth up there. So I think what I have really strived to do is just be real. I mean, you're talking about, you know, Twitter Drew and
he's a dangerous fella.
like I just want to be Jaime. And you know, I kind of got to this space a long time ago where I am who I am. You like me or you don't. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm somebody's. So, you know, I think I just put me out there. And I think those posts, like I said, sometimes I'll end up with conversations where I'm like, people who would, or they'll inbox me. I'm amazed at the amount of DMs that I get that are like, I would never talk about this in real life. But, you know, and it's, I mean, they'll just pour out life. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you know, no.
Yeah.
So, I think I kind of got sidetracked, but, Am I heading in the direction?
Well, what you're talking about is really interesting. We talked about kind of the same topic on another podcast around the idea of like transparency and genuineness on social media is now what is standing out and making its presence more known. But you look at it because everybody has like their Instagram lives, right? Where everything's perfect and everything. But if you look back like 5 years, maybe a little longer than 5, 6, 7 years, what was standing out on Instagram was like that Instagram life and everyone's perfect life. And we talked about how funny it's like all coming back around. What stands out on social media now is the real, is the vulnerability, is that transparency. When 5, 7 years ago, it was the opposite. Everyone was like figuring out how to do this whole social media thing. So we're like, here's a silly picture of my dog that's maybe half of it because it was running and I couldn't get it. But I don't know. Here you go, Instagram. Does that work? Yeah, I got 4 hearts. Awesome. But like now everybody's like taking pictures of Lamborghinis and private jets and living these like perfectly amazing. Curated. Yes. But it's really interesting. It's all coming back and what's standing out, what's making more of an impact is that real and transparent, you know, type of post. It's interesting.
I think that's one of the things that's interesting you say that because people I think find it a little endearing that I'm willing to be vulnerable and like profess that I'm not the mom that has it all together. You know, do I have a program out there that, you know, teaches you the right thing? But that doesn't mean I've got it all together or that I'm perfect.
Yeah, that's so true.
Hey,
if anyone, your vulnerability is really interesting because you're the one hopefully helping people get it together.
Yeah.
And if you're like transparent, like, well, I don't have it all together, you're taking that risk.
Totally.
And you're like, why would I want to use her if she doesn't? But like the realness, that's kind of the joke in all of it. Like no one ever has it all together.
I think I encourage people
yeah.
though to be able to be vulnerable because like, well,
Yeah.
if this chick is going to say she doesn't have it all together, then it's maybe okay for me to admit that I'm not the perfect mom, or I don't have to put this persona out that I've got it all together. Because guess what? None of us do.
Yeah.
It's really interesting when on the topic of small business owners, it's a very important thing that a small business owner publicly, it looks like him or her has it together, because if you don't have it together, the business owner, what's that maybe publicly say about like what the perception is about your business? And if your business doesn't look like it has it's all together, then you could maybe lose the business. So it's really interesting. It's like the business is a child that you want to make sure publicly it looks like, oh, my kid's always on the honor roll. My kid is always dressed to the T. I mean, like everything like that. For a business owner, it's that personal and corporate brand that person's responsible for. And being vulnerable is a scary thing because that could be loss of revenue, that could be loss of customers, but taking that risk could be an interesting thing.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't intend for the conversation to go here, but it has. And it's really interesting because like the example, and I honestly am having a revelation right now. You're
only on the Small Success podcast.
Only on the Small Success podcast.
Make sure to subscribe iTunes and Spotify.
So your small business was birthed out of something that you are passionate about, you as Jaime. Then there exists the Inner Radiance small business pages, but really there's a lot of overlap in what you post, but also who you are, your brand, as you lead the way for your small business to grow. And I mean, there is an amazing Brene Brown talk about the power of vulnerability. And you're right. Like she hits on those things. There is this risk involved, but there's also such a rich reward, especially in your line of business when it is so personal to people's individual growth. And I mean, we had a podcast about vulnerability and telling the truth, and it still matters if you own a plumbing company. You know, your pipes are going to break too. But that is an interesting topic of the business brand, but also as the leader, as the small business owner, your personal brand on social media, for lack of a different word, because whether people are intentional about that or not, what you post, what you don't post, all of that kind of filters into this thing that we're experiencing in 2019 of a personal brand.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's because I'm thinking like I love how you keep saying it was birthed or something like that. It's so true.
A small business is.
Yeah, it's so true. But like a lot of businesses, I don't know, I was like probably like every other business owner, I'm like mildly upset. I love watching the Shark Tank show because of just it's just entertainment, and like you can learn a lot about a lot of things on that show, but it's mainly entertainment. But like a lot of the times the business gets on there, and majority of small businesses, products, services, they all start with someone experiencing something personally and like thinking and asking the question, you know what, there's gotta be a better way.
Yeah.
I don't know, your pipes keep leaking. You know what, there's gotta be a better way. Yeah. Or, you know, your car breaks down and like whatever the issue is, they ask that question, there's gotta be a better way. What makes this interesting about you is how you were living your life, which is that American normal lifestyle of just run it. Success is defined by how much time and exhaustion you're putting into something, not what you're actually doing. But you asked yourself, you know what? There's got to be a better way.
That's exactly what
the same way someone did with like a product or service, but you were doing it on a very personal life level. You know, there's got to be a better way to do this thing called life and still be successful and still make progress and still create things that I was going for in my previous life. But like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And that's where you're at. So, I mean, your birthing of your business, very similar to like I'm not like decrediting it, but like it's very similar how every business gets started. But what makes yours really unique is yours is your personal brand. And like your personal life, not just an aspect of like your life being affected, like your pipes breaking, but your life is what like you thought, there's got to be a better way to do this?
Well, my body broke, so there's the pipes.
Your life pipes are
My life pipes broke, and I needed a life plumber, so here I am.
Yeah, but like that's really interesting.
Yeah.
You ask yourself that question, and the same way every other, someone comes up with a widget to fix a problem, and it's really interesting. Yeah.
So talk to us as a small business owner. What are some of the challenges that you faced getting your business off the ground, or finding a new and exciting trail, and maybe you go down that trail and find a roadblock? They can be broad examples, but give us some examples of the challenges that you faced, because I have yet to meet a small business owner who has had a smooth path the entire way.
Hi, Pam, Drew Larison. Wait, no.
Excuse me.
What's it like? Okay, well, that was not my path. So first of all, you need some background on how I even got going on this whole life coaching thing. So my husband does insurance, and at the time they had speaking of personality profiles, they had a company come in that was doing personality profiles on everyone, trying to make sure that they had the right mix of people working with the right mix of people, because that was not the case at the time. But anyway, after Sean sat down with the coach and was really kind of navigating his results, like his mind was blue, and he was floored. He's like, this woman's never met me in her life. Like, how does she know all the things? And,
wow.
And so this was before like Enneagram, I know Enneagram's old, but like this is before it was kind of mainstream. So, any rate, he's like, man, I really would love for you to get a hold of Jaime and like work with her for a minute. And she's like, yeah, let's set it up. Yeah. So she sets us up, and we go through this, and she's talking through this whole nursing thing, and she says, why, what's the but behind your job? You like your job, but I'm like, no. I like my job. I like my job. It's great. Loving it, living the dream. And, she's like, no, I don't buy it. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to make me go there. And what it came down to,
shaking your fist. Darn you, Sean.
Darn it.
Why'd you make me hang out with this woman?
And so
we'll talk about this at dinner tonight.
Yeah, totally. But she also messed me up in all the right ways and is now one of my very dear friends. So it worked out. But the point I was getting to is like the revelation that she made me go, this aha, was that I was going in and taking care of people's bodies. That sounds really, detached. But like I was going in and scanning a badge and popping a pill in your throat or sewing up your body or doing CPR, whatever you needed me to do at the moment, I was doing that. It's all great. I loved it. The problem is that I was missing the emotional connection with people. And so one of the things that I feel we have unintentionally created in Western medicine society is that we have kind of edged out the opportunity for people to have real conversations and to kind of go there and dive deep, because like I said, physical things show up when we don't deal with heart issues. And so, what she helped me understand is that, she goes, you remind me a lot of my mom and dad. And I'm like, is that a good or a bad thing? She's like, no. I really love them. And she said, they're both life coaches. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. And she said, oh, well, and she, shot me in some directions to do some research. And I ended up going out to California to study, which was great. But one of my struggles getting back on track, now that this now makes sense, was that you pick a coast and like life coaches are a dime a dozen. You come here to the Midwest and people are like, huh?
It's like Instagram photographers.
Right.
There's photographers all over the place.
What are you and what do you do? And then the other mystery is like life coaching it's broad. I mean, life is life. Some people are, and so what I found I had to do was whittle down and find my niche. Where's my hole in the wall that is my little thing that I'm awesome at, and how do I spread that? So that's what I said. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm the people that I need to be. I'm their cup of tea.
You can sip it all day for the people that you need.
All day long, and it's like all the good stuff. So that's kind of. For me, it's been education, because people are like, what is life coaching?
Sure.
And when I first started,
there's like this hippie stigma between life coaching and like, but it's kind of what you were saying, what the big problem with America Health. What I heard was we've done a really good job of ignoring mental health and only focused on physical health.
They will drug you to death.
There's a pill for everything.
Here's a pill.
Yeah.
Put it, numb it out, call it a day. And we forget that people have like feelings.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the feelings, they lean in and process some of the ugly stuff, and then it gets better.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily need to slap a pill on it. Now, am I saying that we should never take pills? No. Please don't hear that. There is a time and space
Don't
for
throw
it.
your Tylenol away if you're listening to this. It's okay.
But like, maybe take a minute to feel through it. Is there something that we need to work through, or is it something that genuinely you need in this season to help you get through it? So
it's the idea of like mental health, I feel like is being talked about more now with less and less of a stigma in our culture than ever before. And it's really interesting, especially in the small business owner world. I mean, it's so easy to slip into like this loneliness, this depression,
isolation,
and isolationism as a business owner, especially in the small business owner world. It's so easy to slip into those things and not realize you're doing it. That talking about it, and that's honestly, as I've said this multiple times, I'm like, that's what I kind of love about the idea of this podcast. Is in my head, a business owner is listening to this right now while maybe they're doing the books or something like that, and they have like this moment they can get away from maybe big responsibilities or people and troubles or even successes in their business or whatever, and just listen to this and know they're not alone in the idea of owning a business. I love that for this podcast, but like it's a hard thing to not be alone and feel that, and talking about it is just lessening that stigmatism that it has with it, and it's a cool thing. And you're doing a lot of that. You said like for moms, but so the idea of like a business owner is interesting, and working with coaching a small business owner is interesting for you because you're also one. But it's similar to like you're also a mom, so it's a niche, as you're saying, that you could probably do a lot of good in, because the same way you're doing a lot of good for moms, you could do a lot of good for small business owners now that you are one as well. So it's interesting.
True story.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Well, and something I've heard you both say, but you didn't actually say.
Oh gosh, here we go.
Again, well, we've already brushed on it, but again, is that vulnerability. There is vulnerability for a mom. For a small business owner.
We're stubborn people. That's why we started our own business.
That's right.
Because we didn't want to do something in somebody else's way. So like, fine, I'll just do it my way.
Right.
Yeah.
But to say, hey, I'm really feeling isolated, or I'm really feeling alone, and I need help, and that's okay. And there are people and resources in a Radiance Small Success Podcast that exist with the heart and the goal to be better together and help each other. And that's really, really cool.
Let's talk triggers. So if somebody
what
I'm into
vulnerability.
This. I'm into this. This is fun.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what are some triggers people listening to this, or people that know people, that they should be watching out for in their own lives. Like, if this is happening to you and you're becoming aware of this or this, whatever it is, what are some things that could be, if you're noticing this is happening in your life, or you're noticing about yourself that's happening, that it would be a good idea to start talking to somebody, whether it's you as a coach situation, or it's a counselor, or any other like mental health professional. What are some things small business owners should be looking out for? Or moms, or whatever it is, whatever the niche is, because you get so deep into doing that you lose track of feeling sometimes. So like, what are some things people could be aware of?
That's good.
Thank you. I just came up with that.
That's lovely.
That'll be on Alaris Media graphic later this week.
It should be.
Too, okay.
Oh gosh. I think the thing that I see day in, day out, whether you're a mom, I'm sure it applies to small business owners. People are so hard on themselves and feel like they're not enough. At a core, like I have literally never run into anybody who at a core level at some point feels like they're not enough. They're not making enough money. They're not doing enough. They're not momming well enough. They're not doing well enough at their job. Fill in the gap, whatever it is for you.
We don't define enough.
Yes. And so like, I think it's this broad chasm that we just look out as we're never going to be that. And enough to us might be whatever shows up on Instagram as, oh, wow, that looks perfect. And, gosh, they just look like they have the perfect little family, or they're running the perfect little business. I think what it comes down to is recognizing that we are all unique. We are all individual. And we were all made to do our own thing on this planet. And comparing yourself by saying, you know, I'm not meeting whatever standard we've realistically or unrealistically put in our heads, we're not doing ourselves any favors. So that would be a big one for me, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's really good for a small business owner to understand something, you know,
it's taking a step back and defining for yourself what enough is, or defining for yourself what success is in your personal being. Maybe not even just your business, but like your personal self. If you could plan out your perfect day physically and mentally, what does that look like? And like sticking to it too, because defining is an easy thing. You take 5 minutes and like you can knock it out as like a checklist item. It's like, all right, cool, did that. But then sticking to it every single day, which goes back to none of this can happen without self-awareness, you know, and really realizing what it actually is. But then also what I heard you say is a big thing, is coming to the realization that no matter how perfect someone's Instagram life is, it's really realizing it's not real. No matter how good that photo is, or how good the Photoshop is, or how perfectly aligned someone's books are on their bookshelves as they take the photo in the background. But you laugh. We pay attention to that stuff.
I know.
We focus on that. But realizing that was staged. They probably have a closet full of crap that they threw to take that picture and make it look nice. I mean, coming to that realization is hard for me.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of great people in my life that I just constantly think like they're better than me in some sort of way, but everybody's jacked up. Everyone is so jacked up.
Everybody puts their pants on the same way.
Yes, but like we're so jacked up in so many ways that you can't just focus on what someone puts on Instagram, which really dives into the whole, like the importance of genuine human relationships, to where you get to the point where you see that non-Instagram side of people.
Yeah.
If that's what it takes for you to realize, like, not everyone is their Instagram profile.
Holy cow, they're human.
Dive into it and like become friends with them and open their closets, so to speak. And like, you'll see the pillows and dirty clothes, or you'll see their other shelves. Yeah.
Well, and the interesting thing, one of the many interesting things, is I feel like the majority of people, because I'm one of them, we don't really like that answer.
Yeah.
What is enough for me? You, for it's different for every individual. And that, as a culture, I feel like is unsettling, because we're used to, like, here's a standard, let's meet it. Here's this standard, let's meet it. Like in school, as 6-year-olds, there are, and this is not to knock a goal. Like there is a beauty and there's good things in having goals personally and having goals in your business and working hard and reaching those goals and doing that. But this idea of enough and the fact that it's individual for every person is really cool, but it's also really new. I feel like that concept of self evaluation and having that self-awareness to realize, for me in my life, what does enough look like? Does that mean 5 minutes of peace in the morning with a really good cup of coffee? And that small
is huge.
Thing
that
is
small
huge
thing should be huge
for me in my day. For you in your day, and it may be something totally different, but
it's engraved in us too.
Yeah.
This whole idea of nothing is ever enough, and I easily something I struggle with. Like, if there's any Hamilton fans out there, like, I am also never satisfied. Like that song, like I love it. It's really catchy, but I'm like, ooh, I hide at the same time. Like, ooh, that's me.
Oh, it's me.
But that's engraved in us, I think, as Americans. I mean, the whole Rockefeller thing. How much is enough? $1 more.
Right.
You know, but like replace dollar with anything else. You know, and it's engraved in us. But I think, as we go on as Americans, and maybe it is like the whole, we're making health or mental health less and less of a scary, intimidating thing. That's turning into where we're okay and we can define enough and we don't need this and then that. You know, maybe this is just is enough. So it's interesting as mental health becomes less and less of a taboo topic, if that goes along with it. You know, being able to define what enough is, and but as a business owner, it's hard.
I know.
It's really hard.
The answer, you want it to be.
Well, because I mean, going back to, you don't know what enough is, because I feel like if you get to a certain point, maybe you're happy with that. Then you think about, well, publicly, we're just done. We got here and we're good. No, people want to see us grow more. People want to see us grow bigger and hire more people, which is really funny. I remember it wasn't you when I hired you. It was somebody before you. It's so funny. People come up to you like, congrats on the growth, like congrats on the hiring. And then like inside, I'm like, oh my gosh, they think I'm successful. This is a cool moment. Like cool. But no, on the outside, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. We're growing. Growth is great. We're growing. Inside, I'm like dying. I'm like, oh, it's another mouth I'm responsible for. I hope everything's going well. But like that, I wish I had like the courage and, transparent and be like, thank you. It's terrifying.
But that's the truth.
But yeah. But like in my head, my ego, whatever you want to call it, like I'm like, awesome, thank you. Yeah, we're blessed. We're blessed. Thank you for the growth compliments. Blessed. But inside, I'm like, I'm so scared.
I'm dying inside.
Yeah. But like one day I'll get there when somebody compliments. I don't know, if we grow out of this office and we buy another one, and people say, congrats on the new office, bigger and better. I'm like, yeah, the mortgage is bigger. You know, like that'll be my response. Like immediately go to that. It'd be interesting, but.
Interesting. Okay, well, this was a great conversation about the challenges with small business owners.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to flip it a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about some of the success you've experienced as a small business owner with Radiance. And I also acknowledge that your business is unique, and so some of your success may be measured by individuals' personal stories, which obviously need to be confidential.
Right.
But you can paint in broad strokes and maybe give us some ideas of some of the wins you've had over the years. Personally, as a business, one and the same.
Oh, boy. Yeah, this is an interesting one. So,
be vulnerable.
No, it's not that. It's like, how do I tell you successes without like going there and telling stories? So I'm trying to map that one out.
Sure.
I have seen people come back from depression. I have seen people come back from the brink of suicide. I have seen women switch the way they show up in their how they show up to their relationship, not only with their spouse but with their kids. I get to go into schools and teach little kids like how to be calm. You know, I go in and we'll do a little yoga or we'll do a little tai chi and I teach them how to breathe and to watch these little kids experience the bliss of just like, I don't have chaos in between my ears for 5 minutes. Like it's amazing to see that. And the teachers will just
and starting that young is such an amazing thing.
We don't teach people how to calm. Like we don't know what we're doing. Yeah. So if you've got adults that don't know how to do it, you've got
what a terrifying thought.
Broken people teaching broken people. And it's just like, are you kidding me? You know,
how dare we ever criticize youth? You know, for like anything. I'm like, well, who do you think made him that way?
That's right. It's totally true.
We all jacked up people taught him to do that.
That's been one of my favorite things is going in and like nothing. I've had teachers that'll have their class write me thank you notes, and like some of these kids will tell me that they've never felt calm before. I've had people tell, like little kids come up and crying, and they don't, it's not okay to cry in their house. Yeah. And so I'll get these little kids, never met me in their life, come up and give me hugs. And they're like, Mrs. VerLee, you really helped me feel happy in my heart. And like, they're just sobbing. And, you know, like they don't know how to give words to what they're feeling, but for like maybe the first time they're understanding life at home doesn't have to be crazy and chaotic. It's okay to be calm. And like, they don't have the tools to do that. And sometimes that's the only space they get. So
why are we so crazy and chaotic?
I think it goes back to being enough. Darn, we don't want to deal with that.
Well, I think I said something. We're defining success in our country, I feel like, by time.
Yeah.
You know, you see, especially I see it all the time in the small business world or like the entrepreneurial world, maybe. But like literally people are bragging about working 16-hour days.
That's stupid.
But it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's like all over and it's exhausting everywhere. And it doesn't make you, it just makes you tired.
Yeah. And I've consciously, when I started Layers Media, thank God I had the mind of like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I never understood why people bragged about that.
Yeah.
Cause I'm like, don't you like have people that like you want to go to? And like, I was married, with one kid and one on the way when I started Laris Media. So maybe I had a different perspective.
Sure.
But I feel like that's a dangerous thing to celebrate or dangerous thing to measure as success. And like, I think that's a big part of it. Like, how successful are you? I'm like, well, I hustled 20 hours today. I'm only sleeping 3 hours a night and I wake up and work more. I'm like,
yeah. And how you feeling?
Suck? Like, I mean, the whole, like, if you find out what you love, you'll never work a day in your life is such bull to me.
Yeah.
Like, I love what I do, but like, there are some days I'm like, oh, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
From work, and like dealing with whatever it is. I love what I do, but it's not true. Like, you'll never work a day in your life. Anybody like the mental health world, if you're in the mental health world as a counselor or whatever you are, you're there because you love it, because the stuff you hear and deal with, you better love it. Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you could spend all day helping someone, coaching people, finding cures for their depression, what all of those issues you just said you've helped people with. And you go home and you're like, I want to sit on my couch. I'm exhausted.
Seriously, though.
Exhausting.
Doesn't mean you don't love it. It means you've exerted so much energy to make that happen. Yes, rest is necessary. I think one of the things I tell my clients all the time is you don't get an award for being the craziest, most exhausted, burned out person. Like,
yeah,
that just makes you crazy. That just makes you crazy and not feeling good.
The long game is not good on
that.
No.
There's not an award for that. So, I mean, I think what you've talked about is really super healthy. Like, I knew when I went into this and I started my business, I didn't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Congratulations. 'Cause you're odd man out and I'm very proud. Way to go. I'm very proud of you. Cause
there are people like in our industry specifically, we have 5 people on Laris Media now, including myself. There are people that I know running businesses similar to us, similar workload, everything, and like there's 2 of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like they're doing it. They're probably exhausted,
Yeah.
but like, I mean, I would much rather hire someone and grow our team and give somebody that loves this type of work that opportunity to do this, so I can be home at 6, or I can like be a father to my kids. That like, I don't want to be that dad that worked all the time. Like, I have zero desire for that. And I think people don't understand it's possible.
Yeah.
To do an entrepreneurial type of life, to build something that you love and like have the desire of building something that outlives yourself. Very much Hamilton. I love it. A lot of self-awareness happened to me with Hamilton. But like, I think that people don't understand that's possible, and like having a life and not having to work 12-hour, 15-hour days. And that's an interest. How do we tell people that? Because people are defining success by how much you're working these days.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of people, I don't know, it drives me nuts. People say, well, I was in the office for 12 hours today. I'm like, yeah, but what were you doing? Like, how many of that was just you sitting around drinking coffee? I mean, like, you don't get an award for, the person that just sat in office all day.
Right.
I would rather work 7, 8 hour, 9 hour days, but like be really intentional about that time than just be at an office for 12 hours and maybe like a third of that I actually did something.
Yeah.
And there is something, I'm holding up my iPhone right now for those of you who can't see me.
Mm-hmm.
We have the ability, even if we're not at the office, to continue working 12, 14, 16 hours a day. And so having your personal definition of enough. And I think that's appropriate to change and ebb and flow as life goes on.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Seasons change.
Yeah.
But also really healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
About.
I was just going to say that.
Jamie and I are like doing like
queen of the boundaries.
Boundaries in all areas of your life, but boundaries as appropriate guardrails for this is okay to do at this point. This is not okay to do at this point. It may be totally appropriate to have your laptop and phone open and going all the time while you're at the office. Not when you're at home with kids or whatever. So
like it's such a big question. Like, ask yourself is like, when your kids are talking to their friends, tell me about like your home life, your parent life. Well, dad worked a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
That statement is terrifying.
Yeah.
To me. I never, even if, and like there's the argument, well, as long as you're doing what you love, that's a cool thing to show your kids. Like, oh, even that though, the first word or the first sentence I want my kids to describe me as through their childhood, if that's it, I failed in a huge way in my head. But a lot of people like I don't know, there's this guy I've looked up to for years, honestly, like probably without him, we wouldn't be in this building right now having this conversation. This guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. big social media guy, big marketing guy, turning more into like the motivational speaker world kind of guy.
Oh, cool.
He's kind of brass, but like he's from New Jersey. I mean, like just who he is. If you can get over that, he's a really great guy. But what Gary preached for years is like the life of hustle.
Yeah.
Like if you care about something, if you love something, like you better work 20 hours a day and like do it. But like the thing is, Gary's realized this now, and I think he's done such a healthy transition of messaging. That's Gary. Mm-hmm. And Gary wouldn't be happy not working 18 hours a day. He loves that. Wow. Like but that's him. But what he's realized, I think, over the years is he pushed that mantra onto thousands and thousands of people. Like, this is the way to be successful. And what he's realized, he's like, oh, I was so wrong. That's how Gary needs to be successful and how Gary defines it for himself. Yeah. He's now changing things like, I don't care if you want to work part-time at Burger King. If you're happy, genuine happy,
God love you,
that's what you should be doing. Yep. Do not just be me and work 20 hours a day. There's so many other things, so many different variables, so many other people that define happy. He's like, but that's how I've switched. Success to me is if you can go about your day, go home for whatever work. I don't care if you're working 2 hours a day somewhere. If you go home and you're happy, congrats. Yeah. You have something that the high majority of people in this country will never have, because they're defining success in so many different ways that are leading towards a miserable life. Yeah. So it's been interesting to watch him go like through this switch. But he's like, that's just me. I want you to be me because I'm genuinely happy, but I don't want you to be me and just do everything I did to get to where happy is. It's really interesting. Yeah. I love that switch he's done.
I feel like that is an example of how enough is defined differently.
Oh, like for every single
person. How Gary
person.
defines enough, different from the person who finds.
And he's a married guy with kids, but like it works for him and his family. Yeah. Like his, wife stays home or whatever it is, and like that's happiness for them. That's what she wanted. I mean, sure. But that doesn't mean success of one person is in no way should be defined as success for everybody.
No, I think it needs to be individual. I think,
self-awareness.
When we go trying to fit ourselves into somebody, it's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It doesn't fit. It needs to be yours. And if it's and if working 18 hours makes you happy, then you know what? You work 18 hours. For me, that doesn't work. Yeah. And so, I think that's the one thing is just making sure, encouraging people to, hey, what do you need in this season of your life? And a lot of times they just need permission for you to tell them it's okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really, that's why when in your small business, in Radiance, it is completely custom for every client that you worked with.
Every client.
Or every program that you lead people through, whether it's kids at schools or moms online. You guys, I'm so excited to introduce you to Jaime. We are going to link all of her resourcing and how you can find her in the show notes. Okay, Jaime, one last question that we ask all of our small business owners.
What's your favorite sandwich? No.
No. What is one small thing that you've done that has contributed to your success?
I will say grace. I was the queen of beating myself up for not being, here we go, enough again. And I think that's been what I do. I can say, not everything I do has been a stellar success. And there's been times that I keep getting up and doing it again and again and again. And I think, we say in our house that success looks a lot like hard work. And I would also add that it looks a lot like failing over and over and over and over again. So, just having grace with yourself that, you know what? Okay, it didn't work this time. Get up, do it again. Get up, do it again. Get up, do it again.
Wow. It's great advice for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Well, we are so glad that you were here with us
Thank
today.
You for
Legitimately,
having me.
This conversation has been so good.
Is this your first podcast?
Yes.
Darn well done.
Hey, you're a pro.
Sure.
She was a little nervous because it was your first, I guess.
Yes.
But it's just a conversation.
Oh,
it wasn't bad. You guys are great.
Yeah. Well, you can find a lot of the resources that we mentioned on this podcast and more. And you can in the show notes below. So swipe up if you're listening to us on iTunes or if you're on Spotify, you'll find everything in the show notes. As always, you can find out anything and blogs that we reference in this podcast at LarrisonMedia.com. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.